I'm with Brian Mullen from Mullen TCG. Here we have the third place winner of South Carolina ARG Circuit. So, what are you running?
I'm running 7Cs.
Alright, let's see your build.
Alright, so start off with Gina. Um, she makes the deck super fast by milling grade 2s that can attack on turn 1, or makes the deck super consistent. Lets me also have high defense early by pitching Plagueton or other grade 3s to swap for other cards, but still keep up my ability to ride. So she's super good with Grand Blue right now. I like her in any build. Um, for grade 1s, 4 Water Spout Gin, because better than the alternative.
You gotta get that on flip.
Gotta. 4 Night Crows. I tampered with playing just 3, but he was so mandatory to all the combos that he has to be 4. You just have to see him. And 4 Skeleton Assault Soldiers. This card is another one I kind of toyed around with because I also consider Sea Strolling Banshee, but he just seems better to me in a lot of ways. The fact that he can be used from the hand, the fact that he can be used over and over without messing up my soul, or without needing a resource at all to rely on, and the fact that you can call him out and pop him off with Nightcrow, and he's still there as a defense.
Yeah, it wasn't hollow at end of turn. It was just hollow and retired at all.
Correct.
Mm.
Similar to Mick, that just sets up defense very well. And I run 4 of him as well because I like to see him as early as possible. Calling him to the field pushes in pretty fast. If the opponent rides a perfect guard, he punishes. And of course, I want to see that as often as possible.
Okay.
For grade 2s, I run 4 Night Spinal. She's the fastest grade 2 of the deck. The main one able to be called on grade 1. So that's basically the fastest turbo I can make. Her power I do often use a lot in the later stages of the game. When I'm calling out Night Crows, I can call over the Night Crow to call Night Crow back over that, etc. And she keeps on ramping up in power, hitting well above the 30 breakpoint. A very good mix of ghosty target. We can talk about that later. So she's very pivotal to the deck, really. She's my main attacker. Continuing 7C's grade 2s, we have 4 Slash Shades, a very good early poker, which can reduce the opponent's hand, dropping advantage, or builds up damage. Either way, it really helps out going into the late game. Also, pretty good in the late game as well. When the opponent can't take any more damage at all, even a single poke is threatening. I run 3 Raise Rulers. This was maxed at 4, but is down to 3 because he's not as fast as other grade 2s, but his power is still very strong. Calling King Serpent off of him makes him basically free. Calling him off Plagueton to have him then call something, let's say Skeleton Assault Soldier, makes free, easy, strong lines that can hit in the early game, the late game, anytime. Calling Mick is just one of my favorite combos. He's great, but you don't quite need him as early as others, so he's good at 3.
Okay.
And rounding off grade 2s is 3 King Serpent. Able to be called by Plagueton. Let's say like you have to use Plagueton's Counterblast to ride him. Calling King Serpent off the Plagueton on ride allows you to keep on having a Counterblast for your stride. So that was a combo I had to do sometimes, and it really saved my butt a lot of times. Immediately getting that soul charge means that if Gash is my stride on that turn, it's even more devastating. Again, great to call with Raise Ruler because he's basically free. He's basically another one that's good at almost any time of the game because he keeps my plays going. You may notice this is 14 grade 2s and 12 grade ones. Obviously, this is not the grade 1 rush. I have heavily focused on grade 2s simply for the fact that grade 2s are my highest priority and I can rush with grade 2s on grade 1. So I like to focus on them rather than going the easy grade 1 route. So because I'm not a grade 1 rush, I do run a full set of grade 3s. It's 4 Plegaton. He's great to see early game because you can pitch him with Gina and still have him available. Um, or even if you just regular ride him, he's still good to have his effect go off as soon as you ride him. Free card is always nice. Um, he's also good if I'm ever over Night Mist, which is my next card. And, obviously I'm setting up for that break ride turn. I've won games off that plenty of times. It's basically my strongest move. So 4 of him is basically good. He's like the MVP. So rounding off the grade 3s is 3 Night Mist. The reason it's only 3 instead of 4 of him and 3 of Plegaton is because while he is ideally good to ride first, so that you can break ride later, I find that that's actually not the best move to work towards doing, but rather is a good backup move. So I only ride him first if I don't actually have the Plegaton yet. So if I have Plegaton, I'll ride him, and on a later turn, I'll ride into Night Mist, then Stride, and then on a turn after that, I'll do the break ride. He's good at 3 instead of 4. For triggers, I got my heals. I got Rough Seas Banshee at 4. She's great to do as early as possible because I like my first stride to be Gash. She's also good late game. Like I can easily call it off Plegaton if I let's say guard with it early, and she's like my only target. I'll just be like, hey, free card. So she's like the best crit in Grand Blue, so I mean, gotta run for. Next is the second best crit, Cody. Cody is great for saving me from Diablo and VMAX, especially. Blaster Dark Diablo can say, hey, pop that card, and I'll just say, well, guess what? Now it's a Cody in my back row. So screw you. Another cool thing with VMAX is that if a VMAX hit punches your monster, you will then trigger Cody's ability to call himself back. It's only after that, in the next step, that VMAX will attempt to see how many cards you have on field in order to see if he does the damage. But Cody's going to be there, so he doesn't do the damage. It's a very tricky move. Gets around that VMAX. Basically makes me invulnerable to the Narukami right now. Here's Formic. Anytime I see him, I just know that I'm going to do a very powerful turn next. If I see him early, I guard with him as fast as possible because he's just an amazing target to call with Gash. And even if I see him late, I just know that my next turn could be my killer move. I've seen decks run like 2 of him, just a very small number because they don't like working with stand tactics. But I actually do. I actually like trying to get in my big lines multiple times. So I like him at 4, and then Performing Zombie at 1. So a 5th stand helps my stand tactics, and also his ability to mill has helped me a lot. I've milled out Night Crows, I've milled out Night Spinals, I've milled out Plegatons. I've used his ability multiple times a game sometimes to keep on setting up combo pieces. He's just a really good little last card to do in the trigger lineup because he really does help out the deck's consistency.
Okay. Alright, so that concludes main deck. Moving on to Stride deck.
Alright, so first we have 2 Gash. Gash, I like to use him as a first stride because it sets up my drop zone as fast as possible. Obviously, my deck is trying to go very fast. I know he won't be as powerful, only giving 1,000 to each card, maybe 2 if I G-guarded. But that's not really that all that necessary, you know. +1 can make him a 7, and then raise ruler a 9. That's still a 16 line, um, while still also adding a lot of cards to my field. The fact that the cards called by him don't necessarily have to die is great. It allows Race Ruler and King Serpent to continue being interceptors. And he just makes the deck very fast. I'm borrowing these from a friend because I didn't have them at the time of the tournament. So I'm very thankful to my friend Stanley Clemens. This just helped my deck so much with its speed. Next up is for Mareed, Demon Sea Queen Mareed. Mareed is great because the discard cost can actually help me set up drop zone faster. Sometimes I've even pitched Mick to do that effect. Um, her power gain is super good because oftentimes if I stride her early enough, the opponent might not even have drawn a perfect guard yet, and that's basically a free damage because without a perfect guard, you basically have to take her. Uh, Even G guards tend to have a problem guarding her. So if I don't quite feel that I need to stride Gash first, I'll tend to stride a Mareed first, because she's my only flipping card in Grand Blue, which is going to ramp up power with Gash by seeing 3 cards. Um, that can make +6 to a line, which is good for Gash. Also, I do like to do Mareed as soon as possible to set up a second Mareed turn, in which I call 3 cards with massive power. That's especially great if I know they don't have a perfect guard for whatever reason. If I see you at 5 and your drive check was awful, a Mareed just kills it, wins me the game. Very consistent, very strong. And again, like Gash, things called by it don't have to die, so very nice. Next is for Night Mist. For Loved by the Seven Seas Night Mist. And, you know, he's a very typical stride, very basic effect, but very powerful. Being able to call race ruler lines, who then call mix, which is 27 lines, is just still very strong. Um, so, you know, very basic. You just gotta have 4 of them. Next is 2 Bandit Rums. Bandit Rum is a very basic guy, so he's kind of odd to see in a 3rd place spot, but sometimes I just don't have face-up damage, and pretty much every other stride needs a counterblast. So he's a great guy to go into when I can't do anything else. His pressure is very nice, just absolutely amazing. Sometimes if the opponent's at low damage, they'll still perfect guard him, even though they could easily eat the attack, because they know that he has a stronger attack coming. I've also seen times where people are at 4, and they're thinking, I've just got to take the strongest attack of the turn to save my shield. But if my strongest attack of the turn is Bandit Rum, with that on-hit ability active, they'll even guard that. So I've seen people go, you know, start my turn with 4, and at the end of the turn they're still at 4 damage. That basically wiped out their entire hand just to keep them at low damage. So he's great to threaten the opponent. I would only run 1, but unfortunately I didn't have a Dismal to put in at the time, which is why I only run 3 G guards. You know, it's our only one for Grand Blue right now, but he is very strong, very defensive. I don't use Screw, because I just don't really feel that's necessary to me. The card I pitch is usually just going to get into the drop zone eventually anyways. I could just guard with it right there, really. Obviously, that's not the case for some guard manipulation cards, but that's never really been a problem for me. So it would be 3 plus 1 Dismal, but 3 did get me pretty good in this tournament. And last is Sabreeze. I don't need G-Break cards. You know, my only G-Break effect is Mick, but I mean, if I can, I may as well just punch the opponent for a big number.
Alright, so that concludes 3rd place top ARG South Carolina circuit. Thank you for watching.